3 at 7:04 p.m. Could you please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We are recording, right, Marissa? Thank you. Okay, we have a public hearing this evening on the police mutual aid. I guess that's a local law, right?
It is a local law that we're passing, or
Okay.
discussing.
Discussing.
Hopefully passing.
We also have 3 agenda items, a resolution to adopt the local law, hopefully, police mutual aid. Second, resolution to introduce the local law entitled Sewer Use Regulations and schedule a public hearing. And the resolution to appoint a part-time police officer. Do we have any public comment on any of those agenda items? Hank, did you have any comment on any of those agenda items? Anybody in our virtual audience? If you do, when we get to them, we'll certainly take them. Okay, so with regard to the police mutual aid, we're going to open a public hearing. I'll make a motion and ask for a second to open a public hearing on introductory local law police mutual aid at 7:06 p.m. Do I have a second on that?
I'll second that.
Okay,
Unless Michelle
seconded
wants
by
to.
Jay Reichkant. Okay, so before we begin actual public hearing, I think we explained basically what this was about. Sorry, I don't have that paperwork with me again today. But we have Chief Truzino here today. Basically, this is formalizing, Chief, and you can. His microphone's not working? Thank you. So I think, Chief, what we're trying to do is formalize the chain of command, I guess, as to when there's a situation where you're seeking mutual aid from neighboring jurisdictions.
Correct.
Whether it be the county, the state, other towns.
Correct.
That typically, as it stands right now, that would take an order from the town supervisor.
That's correct.
And we're trying to shorten that chain of command to be to the chief of police or the officer in charge of the emergency.
Yes.
Is that it in general?
Yeah.
If you want to expand
Yeah,
on
no.
that, please go ahead.
So, like you stated, because of the lack of a local law, it automatically reverts to the state law, the General Municipal Law, GMU-209M, which would then empower the town supervisor to be the person, the executive that would make that request. What we're trying to do is mirror the fire service, EMS, our other first responders out there, that when they're dealing with a crisis, the person dealing with it on the scene is empowered to say, hey, we need more resources here. Timeliness today, as everybody knows, the breaking news of the shooting down south, it was 14 minutes in total from the beginning of that to the end of it, 14 minutes. And there just is no time, to try to go in a different direction. So in every aspect, we're trying to modernize the police department, and our partners all around us in the region are doing the same. So we're just trying to get everybody on the same page.
And if I understand, this is an arrangement that's kind of already in place for the fire jurisdictions, and it's just
Yes, sir. Yes.
somehow it's been left out from police.
I really don't know. I'm
Right.
going to guess it's just cultural. It was, that, hey, we can help each other if there's a problem, but, it's not that time anymore, right?
So Howard, did you have any comment or additional guidance on this law that the public might benefit from?
The only other aspect I would mention is that under the law, the community that provides the service has a choice. It could either provide the service for free to the other municipality or government agency, or it could charge for that. And the decision to do one or the other is currently a town board decision. And this local law just makes sure that that authority remains with the town board.
So the problem I see with that would be, obviously, the chief or the commanding officer is making these decisions based on public safety, not a bottom line. And so I guess worst case scenario, the assisting jurisdiction sends you a bill, and if obviously we needed the aid, that's why we called out for it.
That's right.
And the other jurisdiction, maybe from a cooperative arrangement, just understands, look, we'll help you, you help us. And
I can kind of answer that. So on a county level, the Police Chiefs Association, in conjunction with the County Emergency Services and the Sheriff's Office, and in conjunction with the State Police, we're trying to get everybody on board with similar protocols. So that the foundation for what you're saying right now, Mr. English, is well laid. So if we're willing to ask for help and everybody's willing to give us help, then it would be reciprocal.
But I think Howard's point is that we're essentially, the town board is giving away some of its authority. More importantly, the supervisors giving away some of the supervisor's authority to allow the incident commander to make these decisions about whether we need help and whether we're going to respond to a call for help. While we're doing that, the law also codifies we're not giving away the power to decide whether we're charging for this help or not. That remains with the town board.
so if it was something excessive, maybe just because of the magnitude of the incident, that, it might be reasonable to at least negotiate some recuperation of funding. And I would imagine, Howard, that jurisdictions like within Orange County Sheriff's Office or New York State Troopers, they're already expected to cover us already. So I can't imagine too many instances from those agencies that we get a bill.
I mean,
Oh,
I'm
we
guessing
wouldn't. They already have jurisdiction. It's the overlaying of jurisdictions that way, kind of like us with Tuxedo Park. If they have an incident, we go in there and we still have jurisdiction. It would be if Greenwood Lake came to help us, or Ramapo or something.
Okay.
Yeah, it's usually, like I think I explained last time, it's usually the situation presents itself when there's some substantial damage that occurs. A police car is destroyed, something happens that results in extraordinary costs. The question always comes up, okay, well, you're helping me. Who pays for the damage that was incurred? And this keeps that at the municipal board level.
Okay. Any board members have any further comments or questions?
I'm so glad we're going in that direction, especially given this constant news.
So this is a public hearing. Town board members have weighed in. I want to make sure we open up the line to anyone who has a question in the audience or a comment. Don't be shy.
we can go to studio ones. Hank, anything you want to say?
No, thanks.
Okay.
It's like, welcome to the 21st century. Here we go. Progress.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion that All persons desiring to be heard, having been heard, the public hearing regarding local law and entitled Police Mutual Aid be closed. I'll make the motion, and Ms. Lindsay, would you like to second
I'll
that?
second that.
Thank you, Michelle Lindsay. That will close this public hearing at 7:14 PM. Oh, vote, yes. All in favor? Thank you.
Aye.
Aye. Let it be known that was unanimous, three of us. So we'll move to the resolution to adopt the local law. I'll introduce it and ask for a second in a moment. I'll read the verbiage of the resolution. Whereas an introductory local law entitled Police Mutual Aid was introduced before the Town Board of the Town of Tuxedo on March 13, 2023, and upon notice duly published and posted, a hearing was held on March 27, 2023, before the Town Board. And whereas public discussion was heard at such hearing concerning the merits and environmental significance of said introductory local law, now, therefore, be it resolved that the adoption of the introductory local law entitled Police Mutual Aid is hereby determined not to have a significant effect on the environment. Be it further resolved that the introductory local law entitled Police Mutual Aid of the Town of Tuxedo be and hereby is adopted as local law number 2 of the Town of Tuxedo on March, 27th,
27th.
2023. So I made the motion. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Michelle Lindsay. Any further comment on this local law?
I'm good.
Okay, I'll just say, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So the motion passes, the resolution is passed. And Chief, you now have the authority to save our city.
All right.
Thank you very much, and thank
Oh,
you,
thank
Howard,
you.
as well for your help.
Okay, now we're moving to another very important element of protecting our town's interests and property values and everything else, and the environment, probably more than anything. Local law about our sewer use regulations. I'll read the resolution, agenda item number 2. Resolution introducing local law and providing for public notice and hearing. Be it resolved that an introductory local law entitled Sewer Use Regulations be and is hereby introduced, I'll say by myself, Ken English, before the Town Board of the Town of Tuxedo and the County of Orange and State of New York. And be it further resolved that copies of the aforesaid proposed local law be laid upon the desk of each member of the board, which has been done. And be it further resolved that the board hold a public hearing on said proposed local law at the Town of Tuxedo Town Hall, Temple Drive, Tuxedo, New York, 10987 in the Town of Tuxedo, New York at, guess we'll do it next meeting, right?
Okay, April 10th.
7 PM on April 10th, you said, Marissa? 2023, and be it further resolved that the clerk post and publish or cause to be published a public notice in the official newspaper of the Town of Tuxedo of said public hearing at least 5 days prior thereto. I'll make a motion. Do I have a second?
I will second that.
Seconded by Jay Reichcott. And I'll take a vote. Any discussion on that? I'll take a vote.
Sure, we can take a vote. Do we want to explain what it is that we're doing here?
Yeah, I think right now we're just approving the public hearing, and then we could expand on that. If
That's fine,
okay.
perfect. Good.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, 3 ayes. Okay, so we wanted to explain a little bit about this, and Jay's been and Howard have been the principal architects, and Jay, as you were explaining, this law really is foundation on state DEC law, or can you explain a little bit about that?
Right, so the sewer regulations cover how the sewer system of the town of Tuxedo is run. So mostly it's talking about the sewer system that is the Hamlet Sewer District, Tuxedo Farm Sewer District, and the associated plants and piping. If you're not connected to that system, there are rules about what you need to do with your sewage. You're not allowed to just run it onto the ground. So either you have an individual septic system, or there are other private sewer plants. So the Woodlands has its own sewer facility. I believe Laurel Ridge and Clinton Woods have got their own private sewer systems.
Through commercially, Veolia.
Right. Those are all regulated by DEC and Orange County Board of Health. But the law that regulates the municipal sewer system needs to exist. Why we don't have one, I don't know. It's one of those things that the plant's so old, nobody ever dealt with it. This is one of the last items of the consent order that we have with DEC, that this law get passed. So it's something that we have to do. This law is based on the model, what they call the model law, that DEC promulgates. So they wrote the law, and we have a little bit of leeway to adjust it to fit our circumstances. And so Howard and also Sean, the town engineer, with a little bit of input from me, have been crafting this and adjusting it to, first of all, to a certain extent, modernize it, because it's an old model law, and meet our particular situation and needs of our system. It is 80 pages of closely typed technical stuff, as you guys have seen, having looked at it. It is going to be on the website for anybody who wants to look at it. If you go to the town board page of the Tuxedo website, and on the left-hand side with all of the menu options is proposed local laws. And if you go there, you'll find it by name. And it's easy because it's the only thing in there right now. So get a strong cup of coffee and prepare for some really gripping reading. That's where we are. A couple of high points. It addresses things like how the sewer are to be constructed, what materials, those sorts of details. It addresses what can and can't be put into the sewer, including inflow and infiltration, which people have been hearing those words, I&I. So inflow and infiltration, that is stormwater that gets into the sanitary sewer. Infiltration is water that gets into the sanitary sewer by accident, broken pipes, manhole covers that get submerged during a rainstorm. We try to avoid that as much as possible. Inflow is stormwater that gets put into the sanitary sewer system on purpose. So in the old days, the gutters from your house ran down into leaders. Those leaders go into a pipe in the ground. Where does that pipe come out? Nobody knows. Maybe it goes into a French drain. Maybe it goes into the sewer. If you have a sump pump in your basement, maybe it goes out a pipe out the side of your house, or maybe it goes into the sewer. In the old days, we wanted inflow because it helped wash out the pipes. And mostly what we were doing was diluting the sewage before it went into the river anyway. With modern sewer plants, we don't want inflow because it makes the sewage too dilute for the microorganisms that treat it at the sewer plant. They don't have enough to eat, and that's a problem.
Well, if I can interrupt you for a second.
Sorry, I'm an engineer. I could talk about sewage all day.
No, I'm sure I'm going to ask you to continue in a moment. But I want to make sure, there's very few people on this, but hopefully we know we're recording this, so if anybody has any questions. So this is very important right now with the activation of the new sewer plant that you've heard us talk about for the last 2 years. It has been activated. It was activated, I believe, on January 14th. And as a result of that activation, we became very aware of how much inflow and infiltration was happening because the amounts of the volume was, we think, more carefully measured. And we know there's a lot of clean water that's flowing into this new plant. Well, the new plant is of such a design that it's really set up to treat sewage, not clean water, like the old systems that Jay was describing was perfectly fine handling. The new system has basically a bionic membrane that the bacteria that breaks down the organic matter, as you can imagine what that is, the organic matter that you're flushing down your toilet actually needs that organic matter to live. So if the water is too clean, it literally kills the bacteria that does the job of sanitizing and breaking down the organic matter before it's released into the Ramapo River. So that's not a good thing. And so now we have a system that was designed to allow this infiltration and inflow into the system, but the new system can't. So Howard, Jay and I were just discussing, how do we get into this law, some kind of a timetable and notification to help residents in the Hamlet Sewer District. And we're not anticipating the same problems with the Tuxedo Farms because that's an all new collection system. But we definitely need to educate the Hamlet sewer users, Hamlet sewage treatment users to understand that we need to figure out this infiltration and inflow problem now, and we need to set some kind of a time limit to figure out how much lead time we give residents, because, correct me if I'm wrong, after we pass this law, it will be illegal to have inflow, especially because inflow is intentional.
Yes.
That inflow will no longer be permitted. Am I accurately stating this now, Howard?
Yes, you are. Yeah, but if you're thinking about putting a provision in the local law that delays enforcement, I'd have to look at that carefully.
No,
Think about that.
I'm not, excuse me, I don't want to promote delaying enforcement, but giving people, first of all, a heads up that,
Well-
and also that there's a timeline to take action. So is
That
it
could-
30 days? Is it, how does a homeowner even determine that they have that problem? That kind of thing.
Well, I think that is probably best handled internally with a discussion with the code enforcement officer and to come up with a reasonable plan. Because if we're talking about one or two people or situations, that's one thing. If we're talking about an extensive number of properties, that's another. And how we get the word out is a function of two things. One, letting the people know what to look for, because the likelihood is most people don't know where the pipe, when there's a pipe in their basement, they don't really know or may not know where it goes. And so they may not become aware. And then it'll be incumbent upon the town and its operators of the wastewater treatment system to ferret those connections out, just to help people identify that they've got a situation that needs to be remedied. And And then it's a question of, well, is it simply disconnecting one pipe from another in the basement and adding a pipe to divert something? Or is the situation much, more complicated than that? So it's
So I think
it's
in
not
our
a,
law, it's saying something about 100 feet to a storm conduit, or I think, as Jay was saying, can you manage it on your own property through a French drain? Do you have enough property, is there a stream that it diverts into?
Right, I mean, so what the law says is that no new inflow is permitted. What it says is that if there's existing inflow and there is a reasonable way to stop it, then the superintendent, the authority over the sewer system can tell you to do that. If there is no reasonable way to divert the inflow, whatever that would be, then the law makes provision for charging, for coming up with a system to meter the amount of inflow and charging for it at a rate that is higher than the regular sewer rate, so that, there's incentive to stop.
Even if there's no reasonable way they can stop it.
Yes. Up to, doesn't mean, we can make, those are decisions that can be made at the time.
But if that inflow, as we've stated, is detrimental to how this new sewer plant works, I mean, just charging somebody more money really doesn't help us.
Well, yes and no. So you're right, it doesn't, just charging more money doesn't necessarily help us. Part of it is that there's a cost to this, so that gives a reason to try to find a different solution. Part of this issue is, with the new plant, we pay by the gallon. So if somebody is putting in extra waste of any kind, they should be paying their fair share. The last bit is, part of the issue that we're having now and why this is such a pressing issue is the sewer plant is designed to handle all of the flow from Tuxedo Farms and the flow from the hamlet, and the hamlet flow is a relatively small fraction of the total. So once Tuxedo Farms is sending product to the plant, there will be more leeway for inflow from our side.
Well, theirs will be less diluted.
Exactly.
Much less diluted.
exactly, it becomes a function of the volume. If you're down to a few of those unique situations that can't otherwise be remedied in the scope of the entire flow into the plant from both districts, it'll be a nominal amount, but still,
And, sorry,
you may need to provide some financial incentive so that somebody is always on the outlook for, or look out rather, for a better way to deal with it so that they don't have to incur a continuing excessive cost.
given that we live in the Northeast and have very hilly terrain anyway, and we have a town filled with streams and rills and storm drains, I don't see there are going to be many situations where there's no reasonable alternate. But it's there in case.
Well, isn't it there also the problem, I mean, as you're saying, when Tuxedo Farms comes online, the problem won't be as bad. But there's also the amount of gallons that are allocated to the Hamlet Sewer District, and we seem to be exceeding that by a large amount, right?
We're right at the top of that right now. We're exceeding it occasionally, yes. And we pay by the gallon. So
Yeah,
this
we
is,
pay by the gallon, but unfortunately, the users are just units.
that's a different law that we're working on, but not this week.
Right. So I know we just made a motion and set a public hearing for April 10th. I'm reconsidering that in my own mind, and we'll explain to the board in a minute why I think we might want to push that off. I've set up, Howard, with Harris Beach, Julie Marshall. We have ready a mailing that we were going to do to all Hamlet users. Basically, at one point, we were trying to share all the good news about opening the new sewer plant, but I think it's time to send that letter out, giving the full picture of what we know now. We could put in a workshop and a public hearing about the sewer system and make sure that everyone has an opportunity to understand what we're talking about here, and even the notion of that they may need to remedy things in their homes. What do you guys think about that notion?
I think that there's two things going on. I think that we need to pass this law reasonably quickly.
Right.
The question of dealing with I&I is almost a separate issue. So from informing the homeowners, I mean, we can choose when we're going to start.
I see.
You know what I'm saying?
Pass the local law, because we have to do that anyway.
We have to do that anyway.
There's no choice in dealing with this infiltration and inflow.
And we're not taking that out of the law.
Right.
We're not going to change that.
That can't change.
So, right. So,
Okay. Go ahead with the
And
public
you'll
hearing.
always have a situation where when you're in the sewer business, you're always looking out for sources of infiltration and inflow.
Yeah.
Because the tighter you can make the system, the cheaper it is to run it.
Right.
So those concerns won't go away.
Right.
They'll always be there.
but I agree that we should make use of the LDC mailing to not just say how great the sewer plant is, but there are these issues, and we can start to have some education about what to start looking for.
And what not to flush and all that kind
All
of
of
stuff.
that good stuff. Yes,
Okay.
It's not in here,
So-
but don't flush wipes. Let me say that now. Even if they say they're flushable.
and rubber gloves
Right.
and little booze bottles by the hundreds.
Wow.
So somebody's very thirsty.
Right. Anyway, but now, I don't know if we want to have a board workshop about this law. I don't know if it would be, I'm looking to the non-engineering part of the board. And obviously Deirdre and Maria aren't here tonight. But if that would be useful, there's a lot here. We could set that up and it's a thought. I don't know if we need to set it up
Well, I
tonight,
would
but
certainly maybe do that at the 10th, April 10th, and then the 24th, have the hearing on the law. So not only the board, but the public would be better informed. I mean, that way, when you have a public hearing, they'll actually be informed enough to make a comment.
well, I'm assuming everybody's gonna go to the website and read the law between now and the 10th.
Well,
But yeah,
I'm thinking, the group that really needs to understand mostly about this I&I issue, that's where I'm focused, on what's going to be the most immediate impact for the users of the Hamlet Sewer District. But quite frankly, maybe Howard could even explain to everyone in town, why is this important to somebody who lives in Laurel Ridge, in Southfields? My understanding is, Howard, that it's the town's responsibility to manage this special district. And if somehow we fail to meet that obligation, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm understanding that to be a town obligation. Because if we totally drop the ball and lost the use of the new sewer plant because the infiltration and inflow was so out of control that the plant couldn't even run, those users aren't gonna, if they were considering a lawsuit, they're not gonna sue themselves. You know, they're gonna sue the town. I mean, maybe I'm being dramatic, but I want people to understand, if I'm correct, that it's all of our responsibility as the town to make sure that we're doing everything possible.
Well, it's hard to answer the question the way you framed it, but I can tell you this, that the town board is responsible for the Hamlet Sewer District, just as you're responsible for the Tuxedo Farms Sewer District. Once a district is formed, the town board is the entity responsible for that district. And all of the costs associated with running the district and treating the sewer and any fines or penalties for not treating it are costs of that district.
Okay.
They're not paid for by properties outside of the district. So for example, you asked about Laurel Ridge. People in Laurel Ridge would not be assessed any costs associated with the town's addressing a situation in the Tuxedo Farms or in the Hamlet Sewer District. Only the properties within those districts pay for those costs. If you have to borrow money to make improvements to the collection system in the Hamlet Sewer District, only the properties in the sewer district will be responsible for paying the costs of that financing. If DEC imposes a fine, that fine typically is against the district. And it'll be the town of Tuxedo acting on behalf of the Hamlet Sewer District.
Right. Although I would point out that the Hamlet Sewer District includes our entire major downtown area and,
School.
business district and the school. So
The fire department?
Town hall.
Ambulance,
hall.
Town hall.
So, not all the fire departments, but a third of it. So it may be that the sewer district is responsible for the costs, but if we're talking about economic development, then if the sewer district goes away and downtown goes away, then there ain't no economic development, or town for that matter. So
That's kind of what I was getting at. It's important to all of us.
it is important to all of us.
So, okay, so we were really just trying to set up the importance of this local law, even though we set a public hearing for April 10th. I will work with all of us together to get a letter out to all the users in the Hamlet Sewer District, advising them of where we're at with the activation of the new plant, with the dealing with the issues of inflow and infiltration, this new local law, and what it states about property owners' responsibility to shut off any known inflow and possible infiltration on their property, certainly anything that's deliberate of an inflow. And again, I'm not really clear yet, Howard, as to any kind of a time frame we place on that action that needs to be required, but
I think it's gonna, like I suggested earlier, I think it's gonna abide the event. Some things are easier to fix than others.
okay,
So
so
I don't
I
think.
guess
you
we'll
have a-
know better after we deal with the inflow and infiltration that is happening to the town pipes that aren't on private property, which we, for the record, we completed the cameraing, I think, Friday or Saturday?
Friday.
Friday, and that was the end of it. They pretty much did everything, Rob?
We did Mountain Road, we did the hospital, we did the village, we did
East Village?
not the East Village, we did from the East Village under the thruway.
Okay, so you got the, under the
From the-
river too?
Well, there's a siphon there, so there's an elevation change. And that's something that we're gonna have to deal with.
Okay.
That's something bringing in NTEC or somebody like that. That line and the line along the railroad. All the problem, we could not get from behind the Mercantile Building over to the Gulf Station because their 6-inch camera broke. And it's a 6-inch line. So we couldn't camera that line. So, and that was basically, that's what we did, all those areas.
So we're gonna, I hope we're getting an analysis and then we will,
They will send, right, they will write the report, they will send an analysis. I imagine they're gonna send a cost analysis also of what it would take for them to line what they can line, what they can't line, what the town would probably repair in certain spots, what we may need a company to come in. Like, we're not going through the thruway, the manhole under, and the thruway's deteriorating. And I asked him at a scale of 1 to 10, what do you think? He said an 8. That's major, because it's 30-foot manhole. You have to shut down part of the thruway or direct traffic. That's a major, major cost.
so 8 being the complexity and the cost of just doing the study.
That means that, no, 8 means the degradation of the manhole.
Oh,
Yeah. So it's something we really can't put on the back burner. We have to start thinking of things like, it'll all come in the report.
report, yeah.
And when the report comes with, yeah, we'll know. Now, there's inflow that I know the town can take care of in certain areas, because certain areas, they couldn't get their cameras in to see the inflow, but they knew it was in a certain spot. We can take care of that. Along the lines, they need to be lined. Yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry, along the lines.
they need to be lined.
Oh.
Some spots where you can't get in, we're gonna have to dig up and replace a pipe, but the rest of it'll be lined. Yeah, and I don't know if you're going that far into it, or you're gonna start at one point and just replace the whole line instead of doing patchwork lining. You know, that's a lot of questions. We have a lot of questions.
There's a lot of questions. We need to see the report.
Right.
There are any number of ways to repair it, from the liner, which is just what it sounds like. It's basically a plastic sock that you pull through the line and expand and cure, so it makes a new plastic pipe inside the old one.
Correct.
To digging it up with a backhoe and putting new pipes in. There are other methods where you can, you push you break the pipe as you go and you push a new pipe through it.
explosion.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, there's all, so,
There's way, they'll tell us, I mean, they'll give us ideas.
Yeah.
This is what they do, so.
fixing old sewer systems is not, we are not the first one.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
All right, so for tonight's business, we tried to give some background information and update. We set the public hearing for April 10th. I'll be co-authoring a letter to Hamlet sewer users, just updating and also connecting the dots between the new sewer plant, the local law we'll be looking at passing, and the developing mitigation plan to repair the collection system. So I would imagine I'll have a timeline to get that out in the next 10 days or so.
Okay.
All right. Chief Trezina.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for hanging in. We're at agenda item number 3, a resolution to appoint a part-time police officer. I'll make a motion and ask for a second that the town board of the town of Tuxedo hereby appoints Antonio Jennings as a part-time police officer at an hourly rate of $32.33. So I made a motion. I'll ask for a second.
Second.
Seconded by Michelle Lindsay. So Chief, we know the name Antonio Jennings. Unfortunately, Mr. Jennings is not here this evening, but can you tell us a little bit about Officer Jennings? please?
Yes, Officer Jennings is an MTA police officer. He is in the area quite a bit. He also lives locally over in Greenwood Lake, so he's from the area. And he is going to be retiring in the next couple of years from the MTA. So he's looking to grab a part-time spot. He loves working in the area. This is what he knows, so I think it'll work out pretty well.
I know you've done some rigorous interviewing. The first question we asked, can you make the 2 shifts that we're looking for? And his response was affirmative.
Yes, and when he retires, he's all ours.
Excellent. So do you have any questions for Chief Truzano?
No?
Yeah, that's great.
Very good. So let's formalize this action. I'd like to take a roll call vote to approve this resolution. Jay?
Aye.
Ken? Aye. Michelle?
Aye.
Okay, unanimous. Welcome aboard, Mr. Jennings. And we look forward to meeting you personally in uniform and see you on the road. So I guess when he's ready to come in, if he wants to do a swearing in, we'd be happy to do that. Moving forward. Let's see.
Department updates,
Well,
unless you want to jump to something else.
Well, Michelle, I know you've been patient, and I think you wanted to expand on a presentation that Deirdre had given the town board last meeting, I think.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. So I press start slideshow. And,
We're gonna have to log you in.
oh, okay.
So Michelle's going to lead us in a discussion for the town board, expanding on the notion of Hamlet revitalization, specifically some ideas that were generated, thank you, Chief, by the Burgess study. And Michelle just wanted to give the town board some additional information. And
Yeah, so.
while Marissa's setting up the computer, why don't you go ahead, Michelle?
Sure, I'll get started. Yes, as we had presented the last town board meeting, the Burgess study that would be applicable to a grant application before the Tuxedo LDC. So this is just a portion of the Burgess study that we would like to present as a possibility for a grant application to get matching funds. So it's all part of this multi-pronged approach that we are taking to include the Greenway Community Grant Program and the establishment of a school zone on Route 17 to make it safer for the school children. And those 2 things are just part of it. We're also talking with the Department of Transportation to see if there's a possibility for another safe crosswalk. Whoops. And also, somehow,
You need to turn off.
Turn off that microphone.
okay. No, that's not gonna work.
You have to turn the microphone off on the computer.
Yeah,
Yours won't help.
yeah.
Just one moment.
Do you have it on yours? Okay. Okay, okay. All right. Ah, beautiful. So this is the comprehensive town plan that was developed in the early 2000s. is noted goals for the town to try and achieve. And it was complete streets, it's included in the comprehensive plan, to make the downtown walkable and safe for pedestrians and people who ride bikes. Streetscape is a concept that the Department of Transportation talks about a lot to promote traffic calming and have people slow down through the Hamlet district, which is a real problem right now. And so the Route 17 corridor opportunities that's mentioned here is more of the Greenway Community Grant Program. So we're in the Hamlet looking for more opportunities to provide public parking, because right now, the only public parking are 4 spots on Store Road and approximately 8 on Van Zant Road, and which is that lane by Tuxedo Sushi. So those are the only like real parking spots, about 12. The rest of them are all privately owned parking lots. And we want to look long-term to make sure that there's always going to be publicly available parking spots. You know, the availability of the other parking lots is up to the private owners of the properties.
Of course, you're talking about on the west side of 17.
Yes, I'm talking about the west side of 17.
Because obviously people would say there's plenty of parking by the train station and the commuter lot that's not being used, but just
Right,
to
but-
clarify, you're talking about the west side.
Yes, and as of right now, there are a lot of parking spaces in the train station lot, but you need a permit to park there. Or if you go the lower, what we call the lower commuter lot, you have to pay the daily rate. So truly just public parking spaces that are free, total 8.
12.
I'm sorry, 12. Thank you. So now the next point about creating the marketing and sales plan, that's also part of the Greenway Community Grant. So I'll try to move forward and just focus on only the Burgess study implementation. Okay. Now, how do I do that? Ah, there it is. Thank you. So this is everything we're trying to do. The Hamlet revitalization, we would like to get started and really have something to show in 2023. We're looking at the Burgess study. Again, the Burgess study was reviewed by the entire community back in the early 2000s. It was at the same time that the comprehensive plan was being developed, and the town, when they were doing that with our town planner, had community surveys, community public meetings, and so the comprehensive plan was developed. And as you read it, it talks a lot about the Burgess study. The Burgess study is included as part of the comprehensive plan. And it talks page after page about Tuxedo Farms. So the comprehensive plan was being developed in the early 2000s. The Burgess study was being developed with community input, and the special permit was finalized in 2004. All of this was happening at the same time. The developer of Tuxedo Farms funded the Tuxedo LDC grant program to fund infrastructure improvements in the Hamlet Business District. So, right now, the Burgess study was approved by the town board. They gave a presentation to the public in February, and we did get some feedback on that, which was really helpful. So the next step would be having focus groups, and I have some dates where the people from Burgess are available for public meetings, so I'll talk about that at the end, and we'll settle on a date for a public meeting. The main elements of the Burgess study are about connectivity, and we're looking at a way to connect the areas of the hamlet, from Powerhouse Park to the train station, to the others on the east side of the road, to the west side of the road, Store Road, Park Avenue as a safe alternative for walking to the Historical Society, and basically just making a safe connectivity pathway. We're gonna have bike lanes wherever we can fit them in. And lighting is very important. Our feedback is all about how dark and dreary Tuxedo is at night when you drive through. So we have a lighting proposal. And then also beautification with shrubbery, signage. Okay, here we have current Store Road, looking north from Hospital Road. On the right are just some ideas about how such a road that's not the main road, but could become a center of activity.
That's not a rendering, that's a picture of a different town, right?
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry, these are stock pictures from other towns.
Could you go back to the previous screen?
Sure.
Because the one on the left is
Where we are, this is it.
Store Road, looking,
That's-
That one is
That's
Store
looking
Road.
north from Hospital Road.
yep,
Right. Step forward so that you're actually behind the IGA building.
yeah. That's the IGA
It's
on
not
the right.
walls all the way up, but anyway.
We're right at the intersection now.
Right, yeah.
So I mean, that's what you and I took a walk looking at today. And I thought what you were hoping for this evening was some feedback from the town board to the memo that was distributed at our last town board meeting. So,
Yes, and I want to just show you the revisions that we made based on feedback from key stakeholders. These are just ideas of lighting and making this is just one section, Store Road, of the entire project, but how lighting can make an area feel more welcoming and safe. And this is a picture of Tuxedo Farms with the trails and, way down the road, not part of this discussion tonight, is connecting those trails to Tuxedo. Okay, so here we are, current end. This is the drawing, concept visual, I guess you would call it, that Burgess developed to just give an idea of what Store Road could look like. Let me see, can I make that larger? Let's see. No.
My capability, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. But, so we did make changes to this. You can see halfway down the road, it looks like there's a crosswalk, and if you could really zoom in, you'd see there's a walkway on the other side of the road. Also, the original idea is that they were trying to see if they could make this two-way road. So, given the feedback from people that have a business on this road and live there, we eliminated the idea of the two-way, but it'll stay the way it is going north, and the walkway will only be on the right. It will be the same as presented here in that it's flush with the road. But in order to keep cars from driving onto it, we have those, whatever those things are called, the yellow things to stop cars from driving onto it. But we felt that, and in talking to contractors, we spoke with 2 different contractors, felt that the flush walkway was safer for children who might be riding bikes. And now, this is the revised concept drawing, taking out the two-way road on, two-way traffic on Store Road, and having the sidewalk only on the east side. You'll see at the left side of the drawing, a sidewalk that goes from the Historical Society and the driveway up to the church, on that side of the road going down Route 17. And then you see on Route 17, what we hope will one day be a crosswalk. But we've started discussions with the DOT, but it will take a while to get there. So right now, we just want to focus on the walkways, and also Burgess put in this idea of the circular area at the intersection of Store Road and Hospital Road to just give people the visual, slow down, things are happening here. It's not, don't speed, that kind of thing. There's places to put parking spots as you go up to that triangle, you can see, and towards Library Road. And we can also get more parking spaces on Store Road itself. The Store Road walkway then goes around the library and connects to the sidewalk and the crosswalk to the post office. Right now, if somebody crosses Route 17, they have to walk in the road. There is on Library Road as you cross, and then if you wanted to walk up and around the library, you're walking in the road. This is another revision we made from feedback. So on the left is Library Road and the traffic light. So now you're going to cross, and the walkway in the parking lot of the train station will be between the berm, which will stay exactly the way it is, and then the cars will be shifted over 4 feet in order to create that walkway. Now, that walkway will either be a raised walkway so the cars wouldn't drive onto it, or what do we call those, ballards, or something that would then make it so people wouldn't drive on. But most likely, we're thinking that that section would actually be a raised sidewalk. And then adding a little bit of greenery as you get to the train station. We can't go around the arc of the walkway because it goes into the highway right-of-way. So we crossed it, made the walkway right in front of the train station, which is probably safer, and then back up towards the berm. Now, what's also added here on the right, as you look at it by the train station, is a walkway to the lower commuter lot, because right now you have to walk in the road. There is no walkway that's safe for people who park in the lower commuter lot to walk to the train station. On the top side of the drawing, you'll see Van Zant Road and the 8 little spaces that are there, and a walkway which would be, again, flush with the roadway to give people a safe passage up to Park Avenue. And then on Park Avenue, we'll have a walkway on the western side. All of this, of course, is subject to more commentary, but these are just the proposed ideas right now. And that way you can have a safe connection to the Historical Society and people who walk to the train station from the village. What else? We are talking to the DOT about a lot of things, and one would also be a sidewalk along 17 to the Historical Society, because there's no sidewalk there right now. Okay, this, the lower part just gives you a little better idea of where the walkway would be from the train station parking lot through our little park there to the Village Road and the lower lot. And that's it. So our goal tonight is to present this again to you with the revisions that have been made with feedback. We've met with key stakeholders, the library, business owners, and have incorporated some of their suggestions. And now we're looking for the town board to let us know what else you need as far as information,
Okay.
so that we can present a more complete revised plan April 10th, so we can move forward. Now, I think I sent you a timeline last week, and the timeline is that this is as far as we can go with the monies that have been approved, right? The town board has approved the monies for the Burgess study and the plans, and for Ed, who's with Burgess, to co-lead a public meeting. After that, in order to have complete drawings, we need engineering drawings, we need a survey to see exactly where the town property is, because we want to stay within the property lines of the town. And it's very, especially on Store Road, that's really questionable where the property lines are. So we would really need to have a survey there. I think that's the only place we would need a survey. Well, Park Avenue too. And then once we have that, then we can have engineering drawings. We did speak with, and Rob gave some input as well, with some contractors, 2 contractors. And we got a cost estimate for a 4-foot wide sidewalk, and it's not determined yet if it needs to be 4 inches deep or 6 inches deep. We also need an 18-inch trench for electric conduits, so we can have street lighting and lighting in the train station parking lot.
So I'm trying to respond to what was handed to us at our last meeting. And first, you and I, again, walked on this area over by the IGA. And one of my concerns has been this notion of making Store Road the main street. And I think you and I, you
We haven't
clarified,
said that.
well,
Oh, I'm
no,
sorry.
that's what it has been saying.
Where?
No, it's been talked about that Store Road would be diverting traffic off of Route 17. What I'm seeing here is more about pedestrian traffic and less about
Absolutely.
car traffic.
Absolutely.
So, because I want to be clear, I would not support the diversion of traffic, motorized traffic off Route 17 to come around that circle of Store Road and Library Road.
There was a point in time, I think you and I talked about whether closing the curb cuts to divert traffic down to Hospital Road made sense. We did talk about that, but that's not part of this.
Well, that's what I'm
proposal.
trying to clarify.
Yes.
Because there's been multiple iterations of this, and I just wanted to make it clear what my position, because I think that's what you're looking for.
Right.
Is what, I'm trying to be helpful here.
Yeah,
Hopefully that's
got it.
coming across in that way. So I'm also really, what was presented to the town board by Councilperson Murphy, it mentions here a lot about parking. I'm really not seeing much additional parking being added. What seems to impress me the most is trying to define more of a pedestrian right of way. And in the cost estimate sheet that we were given, there's a total expense of, what was it? $313,800. Of course, half of that is built on the expectation of an LDC grant, which obviously, is to be determined.
Right.
But even to get it to that point would require surveying and an engineering estimate to be $43,800 to even put a plan together that first could go before the town board, and then I think the town board would have to support the overall project, because if we didn't get LDC grant money, hopefully that this would mean that the town supports this project regardless.
Right.
So this thing mentions, this estimate mentions lighting fixtures of 20. When you and I were walking, I thought today we were just talking about an example of this project running from Hospital Road to, I'm not sure what the little.
Library Road?
Well, is that Library
Yeah,
Road
yeah,
that
it
actually
does.
connects
Yeah.
to 17?
Yeah, Library Road goes to the traffic light.
So I can't imagine there would be 20 light fixtures between that.
Well, there would also be lighting in the train station parking lot and the walkway. Right now.
Okay, so this project is talking
and
about
parking-
all
yes,
of this?
Yes, yes, yes.
So what if there was no LDC money? How would you is there a plan to pare this down to give something? Is it an all or nothing that you're presenting to the
No, I don't.
town?
I think that, well, I guess it all depends on the funding from the LDC, definitely.
I mean, you mentioned community support. Well, I'd like to see that and actually be able to speak with those people. And you mentioned the Burgess gentleman coming and doing a presentation again. I certainly like that idea. And I know you spoke with business owners, but I'm very concerned about the homeowners in this area that they're absolutely reached out to, because there have been versions of this Burgess study that I understand at one point were eliminating all those homes in that area. At least that's what I've heard from several people. That would be a concern those people would want to know is no longer a part of this plan.
Well,
I mean,
it doesn't.
it sounded like a lot of speculation in the
The
Burgess
homes
study.
on Library Road aren't affected at all. It's
Well,
just,
if
there's
we're
two
diverting traffic
buildings.
in that,
The original Burgess study from 2004 calmly talks about tearing down buildings on both sides of 17 to make new space for new commercial. The 2004 study has historical value, but limited, I think, practical value for new development. I think that the more current Burgess study seems more sensible. There's some silly stuff in there, but
What's silly?
painting murals on the Mercantile building?
well,
Have you
let's
seen
stay,
it?
let's
A
stay
lot
to
of-
what was,
But-
if I can,
but
we just stay
that's-
to?
Let's just, this proposal is.
Okay,
what
so
we're looking
then
at.
this proposal, and yes, we want it. I've heard like 3 versions of this in the last 2 weeks, and I have no idea what the scope of this project is yet.
Well,
I don't-
what I showed you tonight is the scope.
The
Because
sc-
it-
Okay, but what,
It's
but
been
what,
revised based on input from people over the last month.
great. But what was presented in the pictures from 2 weeks ago was just the piece that's around Store Road from Hospital, Store Road, Library Road. And that was what was suggested was this budget of $300,000 odd dollars.
Well,
When,
the other pictures are supposed to have been included if they were missing, I'm not
so,
sure.
okay,
Actually,
But
we
they-
didn't see any pictures.
Yeah, it was,
From when when Deirdre sent this out, it came with, that's how this first came up, because we got a mystery picture, and we said, hey, you sent a picture with no text, what's it about?
well, there was just a technical thing.
I understand, but
you
my
have-
point
when-
is
When the
that-
Burgess presentation was given in February.
Yes.
It had the full scope,
Yes, it did.
which is the full scope now revised.
Fine, but that wasn't what was presented in the meeting 2 weeks ago. What was
Well, that
presented in
was
the
a
meeting 2
little
weeks.
difficult because,
well, there
it
are lots
wasn't
of
part of the
reasons.
agenda. and-
Okay, but I still don't know what the project is. When we talked about this over the weekend, you told me that all of these prices were for raised sidewalks with curbing and,
No, I said some were. Some were raised, some were not.
okay.
That's what
So-
needs definition.
So, my point is, this is not defined as a project yet. It is a
Okay,
concept.
so tell me
It's-
what you want.
I would like to know
Okay.
exactly what you're proposing. I understand that we don't have engineering drawings, but it should not be hard to be able to take the plan and say, from here to here, we're gonna have stamped concrete or paint or whatever it is at the same level of grade. Then we can ask questions about how we keep cars from getting up on it. In this area, we're gonna have raised sidewalk. Or, we're not gonna have raised sidewalk, we're gonna have wheel blocks. Or we're gonna have bollards. Or we're gonna have what was shown in that picture, which are not bollards or wheel blocks or raised sidewalks, but are just markers that don't stop anything. It's
Well-
not a project yet. It's a
Well,
concept.
we're giving options, like the only area that would have a raised sidewalk, if we have a raised sidewalk, the only area, as I said tonight, and I'll reiterate what I said, is in the train station.
Fine,
Lot.
but let's have that picture with some more definition. So we know,
Okay, I mean,
because,
it's on there, but obviously you can't see it when it's so tiny. I have copies, I've written copies.
so maybe what we need is a presentation that happens with more than, it wasn't on the agenda, let's get it put together as a presentation. So that we can look at it, so that we can start to look at, like we talked about. Today, at 5 minutes to the meeting, we got the memo about the engineering costs. I still haven't
you
seen, still,
You had the numbers, I figured maybe you want the background to.
I do want the background. I'd like to see the background on the cost estimate for the construction costs.
Well, how,
There,
okay, excuse me, but how do I go to a company and say, I have no idea if this is gonna be approved by the town board. I don't know which option, A, B, or C, they're going to want, but you give me a price.
you went to
What-
two companies.
Well, I got a
You
range.
went to two companies.
I went-
You gave them some sort of specification.
Okay, so.
Raised sidewalk, not raised sidewalk, paint, I don't know.
Okay,
And they gave you a
range.
range, what we would call a rough order of magnitude estimate.
And it was a wide range, and we used.
It will
the
be
top
a wide
price.
range, absolutely. But still, that is a guess price at an object. I want to buy a car. I need to figure out how much it's going to cost for a car. Fine. I have an idea of what my range is. Am I getting an SUV? Am I getting a compact? Am I getting the top of the line model? Am I getting the base model? I can define what it is I want to buy enough to get a price. Now we can look at that with the backup. I believe that you guys did the work, but there's no way to tell if the numbers you have make sense because we don't know what you asked for. You told me, I know, but you didn't, I don't know. It keeps, every time we talk, I don't understand it because obviously I'm hearing only part of what you're saying. So write it down, so we have it on paper. Then we can look and see if that price makes sense. Has anybody looked at drainage?
Yes.
Yes. Is that included in the price?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, but
His-
how do I know? So once we have that and we can figure
Okay,
out what the
so
cost
I-
is gonna be,
Now, I need to know exactly what you want. That's more than I've already given you.
I would like, you gave me this, that's the backup for the engineering fees.
Well, I have all these drawings too, and you've had the drawings since.
You
the
gave, you're
beginning
not
of
listening to me. You
February.
asked me a question, I'm giving you the answer. You gave me the backup for the engineering fees. So now I know, because before I didn't know what I was buying with that. It's not exact, but I can see now, or I will be able to see when I have a chance to read it, whether these numbers make sense.
Okay,
Similarly, there must be some sort of backup for the prices that you got for the construction.
okay.
With the understanding that it's a WAG, but that's okay, that's where we are. I'm assuming there's a contingency in there. If there isn't, there should be.
Well, we were given such a wide range of $50 to $30 a square foot. And we said, okay, let's use $30 a square foot.
So you picked the lowest number.
15, I said, 15 to
Oh,
30.
I heard 50, sorry, I'm a little deep.
1.5.
Okay, in any event, once we have got a conceptual layout, which we don't have yet, what we have are the pictures from the Burgess study. It doesn't tell me what all those things are. Maybe it does, but I can't read it on the stuff that you've presented.
I have pictures for you right here.
I would like that in an electronic format that's big enough to blow up my computer that I can read it.
All right.
Then we have a conceptual budget.
Why don't I give these to you anyway?
Great, I'd be happy to take them. Then we have a conceptual budget that matches the conceptual drawings. Now we can decide whether we think the price is real or not, what we think the overages are gonna be, and now we can see how this price compares, and whether it's a project that we wanna move forward with, or maybe we wanna move forward with pieces of it. I don't know. I think that the part of the train station is a no-brainer. I think that's, from the first day we heard that, we all agreed that made a lot of sense. I'm not sure whether it is the right time to do the rest of it. I don't know. But I also know that, especially if we're going for LDC funding, we also are planning to go to LDC funding for the train station repairs,
Repairs?
refurbishment.
You're talking about repairs as opposed to infrastructure. So anyway, okay, so I just want to make sure.
Okay,
You've got the drawings, they'll be on the website, okay? We can put the whole thing on the website, so people can look at it and blow it up.
yes,
We have dates that Ed Schneikes is available to come do a public presentation. 2 dates are next week, which is pretty soon. And then another date he gave me in the near future is April 12th, which is a Wednesday. So,
Before we, okay, I still had some,
okay.
I'm trying to give you feedback.
Yeah, okay. And I really am trying to figure out exactly what more I need to put together here.
So,
Uh,
look, you mentioned a presentation. First of all, I would like to see stages of options. I mean, if the total cost were $313,800 for all of this work, I'd actually be surprised that you could get all that done with $313,800.
And half of that being funded by the LDC.
well, but
Well, that's a
that's
baby,
a,
but,
that's a separate thing. We
Yeah.
have to have a project that we're willing to do.
right.
And if we don't get funded, are we gonna still do it? If we're only doing it because we're trying to suck up LDC money, then we definitely shouldn't be doing this project. Because that's not a reason to do a project.
No, the reason to do it is that it's part of the comprehensive plan that the community gave great feedback, was very actively involved with 20 years ago.
Well,
Yes,
that's
that's
the-
exactly
We're
my
trying
point.
to
That's 20 years ago.
finally get it done.
Yes, but,
I think
if
we
it's not
need
a
to-
project that we're gonna do, if we don't get LDC money, if the LDC money is off the table, are we still gonna do the project? And
I don't see
that's
why
a,
it would be, but. okay.
that's, who knows? Maybe we're gonna get 4 more applications next week and approve them all before we
Okay.
put in our money. But my point is, if it's not a project that the town is 100% behind, if we have to pay for all of it, then why are we even talking about it?
Well, I'd be saying prioritize. First of all, what could you do that gives people a tangible idea of what this is gonna look like? So you've heard from me, Michelle, I never saw Store Road as a main street, but as a pedestrian thoroughfare enhanced, it makes a lot more sense to me. You know, matching the lighting to what's currently in the commuter parking lot, what's in front of the train station on the track side. I have pictures of those lights.
Yeah, we use basically the
That
same
would,
design.
that would add some continuity to this historical look we're trying to get in the town. Where that's first can be put forward so people get an idea of what, I'd like to see stages that, first of all, from a funding standpoint, if we can only do $200,000, what would we do with that? If it was just coming from town fund balance, you know, we'd have to look at that. You know, what are the impacts on the fund balance, right?
Yeah, well, we have been talking about a capital plan for a long time. It would be part of that.
Right, so, at least I think I understand now where the raised sidewalks are. It seems to be primarily in the train station area.
That seems to be the most logical place.
The strip between Hospital Road and Library Road seems to have some potential for demonstrating what could be without breaking the bank.
Yeah.
I think that's something to consider. And, you know, as far as the public input, well, that has to be public input that the full board has access to. You know, people would need to come out to a public meeting. If they really support a notion and they can't walk from Store Road to here, I would kind of question what the public support is.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, we couldn't have a public meeting without advertising it. And at this stage, we were just looking for feedback to get to a point where
Well,
we
I-
know whether if there's support for it or not initially, and how to revise the plan to be able to move forward in a logical way. So the next step I see is a meeting that Ed would co-lead and be able to show on the screen and have printouts for people.
I think before that, you know, we got a document here today that we all need to read. We have some revised visuals that I'd like to contemplate and prioritize. I think that would be an important step, that every board member can at least look at this and say, okay, if we had limited money, what would you prioritize as to what could demonstrate the notion and actually get something done? Because there's certainly a lot of things on the Burgess study that are way more complicated than others, right?
Well, this is the most simplified and I think is necessary for pedestrian safety. Because as I said, and you and I were on Store Road today, everybody walks in the road.
Yeah, well, that's an important point because there's very little traffic on that road right now, which also makes it a good reason not to encourage it to be a bigger thoroughfare. Personally, I don't, after we did the Al Fusco study 2 years ago, I still am questioning why Library Road is still a two-way road. It seems very ill-conceived and not wide enough to be a two-way road. Every time I drive down that road and another car passes me, there's no way a car could be parked on that street and have two cars pass each other safely, especially if there are any children or pedestrians on that road. So there certainly is no sidewalk on Library Road.
No,
on that
and we're
side.
not proposing any, I mean, we're just, the main areas where people walk and where there's no lighting is what we're focusing on. Hospital Road, people walk to the church. Historical Society, Store Road, they walk to the library. Train station, obviously, Park Avenue, people walk from the village to the train station, bus stop. And there's no lighting, and walkway to the commuter lot from the train station. So, we're focusing on just the minimal amount of work to make it safe for people to walk and have lighting and,
See, but what's been problematic for me, I mean, the last meeting, this was given to me on the day of the meeting. And look, that's sometimes how it starts a discussion. I don't have a problem with that. Got this today and I haven't read it yet. And now I have these
I
revised
wasn't
drawings.
asking you to act on that, I just wanted to
No, I
send
know, but I'm
it
just saying,
because-
because I want to give you fair feedback, and
Okay.
I think that's what you're looking for. But you're trying to overlay a timeline that doesn't give us time to actually give you the feedback. So what I have now here is a report from Sean Hoffman. I have some updated drawings. You and I took a walk. I think now I'm knowing it's more than just what we were looking at today. So why don't we encourage the discussion, and if we're doing a presentation with the Burgess gentleman, first you got to get the feedback from the board. So that presentation is geared towards answering the board's questions
Okay.
too.
All right,
And-
so do you think April 12th isn't enough time?
No, I think, first of all, our
April
next
12th is
town
the last
board
day of
meeting is,
Passover. You're not doing any public
Okay.
meeting on that day.
Thank you for letting me know that. So I will get the next date after the 12th. I mean, then we've got, there's always going to be the problem, right? School,
yeah, I know,
spring
but
break and all.
but
I
you
would
need the
also-
feedback to move this forward.
Right.
All right,
And
well,
as part of the
how can I
additional
have a
in-
timeline for feedback so I can get you the feedback or get you the information you need? Can I at least have that? And what more do you need from me in order to generate the feedback you need?
Well, you got to give us time to respond to what you've given us, right? So I'm considering all this new information or revised. It's not
Revised.
So
completely.
Yes.
what else do we need? We need
Yes.
the backup for the construction numbers. However you got them, what you asked for, what they gave you,
Okay,
all of it, the range, everything.
okay.
We need,
That I can get you tomorrow because it's on the top of my head.
great, great. We also need, or I would like to see, you say that I understand that we didn't have formal meetings, and that makes perfect sense. But surely there is some kind of summary that you can give the board members that is who you spoke to and what the feedback was that you got, who you
I
spoke to,
can give
what.
that to you tomorrow. I've got it on my
Tomorrow,
computer.
in the next several days is soon enough.
Well, I can give it to you tomorrow. So if I give you all of that information
Great, give it to me tomorrow.
how long before I get feedback to provide to?
Well, we want to do this in a public fashion though, no?
Absolutely.
Well, I'm trying to figure out the steps. So
You gave
I'm
us
gonna-
information to review.
I'll give you more
I will
information
absolutely
tomorrow.
review it. You're going to give us more information. We could put it as a town board discussion item on the 10th. Okay? Not a presentation. It's unfortunate, now we have two town board members that aren't here this evening. So, again, I need to review, and I would like everyone to be considering, prioritizing about what you're seeing here. If it had to be broken up into 2 or 3 phases, what would be your first recommendation that would give anybody an idea of what this could look like? Before I'd want to paint all my houses red, I'd probably want to see what one red house looks like, if that makes any sense. What's being presented here is kind of an all or nothing. And I think it can be broken down into some priorities that maybe have the lowest hanging fruit. Anything that requires moving sewers around or anything like that, obviously, would be a major.
Right.
Well, I know, because we want it mostly be flush. So
Well, on that
we
one
don't-
part of the street
Yeah.
we're talking, and
Yeah.
so don't overgeneralize either, because that doesn't help us see what you're talking about. So, and I think that is part of the confusion that, I had no idea what was gonna be the raised sidewalk, what wasn't. I saw 20 light fixtures. I have no idea where the 20 were gonna go. I wasn't sure if we were still just talking about Store Road, which obviously couldn't have 20 light fixtures.
Yeah, no, it's all 3 sections that we showed you tonight.
Okay, well, that's why you're having this discussion.
Okay.
And
So
I
you
hope you
want-
understand, none of that was presented the last time, so please don't feel put off. We didn't have any real, things didn't go well the last time.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, so,
I have a question.
yes.
As I recall, the latest version of the Burgess study, let us say we're talking about the one that this work came out of. It included improvements to the sidewalks along Route 17.
Yeah, but we're not looking at that.
Why not? We have,
Because the feedback is, nobody wants to walk on Route 17. They feel that it's unsafe and they need an alternative place to walk.
Well, that's where the feedback came from is kind of
Right.
critical.
and
Well,
I find
you
that
know, I
interesting
would
because
say-
Route 17's got barrier curves. Which
It
are,
also has, so many accidents. And, I mean, people can come and tell you accidents that they have witnessed. And there was just recently somebody jumped the curb and went right into the library property. So things like that happen. And so that's why we're looking for pedestrian safety alternatives.
Well, from the Tuxedo LDC grant, being on the board, to me, and having read the guidelines, and a lot of that is about improving conditions for the current property owners. And that's where the magnitude of this seems to be more on the speculation side and less about from an LDC point. And I think that's a really important thing that we separate those two. That a project that's good for the town shouldn't be, so directly hinged to the LDC money. And
I
not
think-
to say that a presentation can't be put forward. Go ahead, Howard.
No, I was gonna say, you're articulating something that I've been thinking as you're talking, which is, if this is a viable project that should be done, then you should look at a variety of alternative ways to pay for it. And the LDC potential is one, but there may be others, including borrowing to get it done. So if you're talking about public safety and improvements that are going to last for a long time, there's certainly nothing inappropriate there for purposes of long-term financing. So you start with what you believe to be a project that really should be done, and define that, and then figure out how you're going to pay for it. I get the sense from some of the discussion that you've come up with an idea to get some money, and you're backing into the project that you want to do with it. But I
I'm
don't know
sorry
that
if
that's the
that
best way
seemed
to
that
do that.
way. I'm sorry, I certainly didn't mean, whatever I said to make it sound like that, I apologize to
That
the
comes-
audience.
That comes directly out of the original write-up, but, okay.
Well, it comes out of the comprehensive plan and the Burgess study, but it comes out of the comprehensive plan that was developed in the early 2000s. I mean, it was revised again, but nothing was changed in the goals.
No, but this is the concept now that's currently being developed as to how you might address some of those concerns of the comprehensive plan.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, I'm sorry if I made it sound like that, Howard, truly.
Yeah, no, you don't have to apologize. I'm just reacting. It's not
Okay.
just what you said. It's just the tenor of the conversation. And,
Right,
and,
but, okay.
and the fact that you're not proposing to do anything to what is perceived in the public's eye, perhaps as being an unsafe situation on the existing sidewalks, tells me that you're leaving something out, because if the purpose of this is public safety and the public feels that the existing sidewalks are not safe, then maybe some additional thought needs to go into, well, what needs to be done to improve the feeling of safety on the existing sidewalks, because it's hard to ignore the fact that you have a somewhat of a sidewalk network already that perhaps just needs some improvements.
yeah, and that's where our current businesses are located on Route 17. So if the feedback was nobody wants to walk on Route 17, well, I'm sure the people who own those businesses on Route 17 aren't giving that feedback, because they might as well close their stores.
Right.
Nobody wants to.
We've
do that.
already identified that there are repairs and refurbishments need to be made to the existing sidewalks. It seems to me that this is an opportunity to capture that, as well as work on aesthetic improvements. We're not getting rid of 17.
No.
I mean, in Sloatsburg did a lot of work. We're not contemplating that level of road revision at this point. Maybe we will in future, maybe we won't. That's a different question. But one of the things that they did is they cleaned up their sidewalks. We have, as Howard said, we have a sidewalk network already that
Needs repair.
needs refurbishment, needs extension, is part and parcel of the original Burgess study and this revised Burgess study. If we're really looking at a total project, and we're really looking at a project that is not being tailored to catch a $200,000 from the LDC, then we should be looking at a total project. You can't just ignore Route 17.
Well, actually, I didn't bring it in because of time and also just wanting to focus on the revised plans. But we are meeting with the Department of Transportation. We have already met with them. We've discussed the crosswalks that I did show you from Hospital Road
Yeah, I read a
across.
report about that.
And we're talking to them about a sidewalk, I think I mentioned it, to the Historical Society. We're talking to them about that. And we're also talking to them about a road diet, continuing the road diet from Sloatsburg. I didn't want to bring that up because I didn't want to add too much to the conversation tonight, but we are talking to them about that. And we have a lot of support from that. And I think now, like 6 years ago, when I first brought it up, when we could have added on to what Sloatsburg was doing, but there wasn't board support. But now that we see how the Sloatsburg road diet has worked out, now I think we could get the support
Yeah, I
to
mean,
move forward. So it is part of the overall plan. And then, once you have the road diet, then you could do something different with the sidewalks. Instead of repairing the sidewalks as they are, and then getting the road diet and saying, gee, now we can have wider sidewalks.
Yes,
And
but
then going back and redoing repairs. So yes, it's all part of the bigger picture. We're certainly looking at the big picture. The purpose of tonight was just to move forward with a portion of it, but if you want to talk about the whole thing, I'm happy to talk about the whole thing.
I mean, I'm happy to talk about the whole thing, my question was, your committee has made some decisions about where to focus the attention. They're pieces of the Burgess plan that we're looking at here. That's,
Just trying to
makes
make it
perfect.
what's practical to do, as you were saying,
Yes, I
phasing it.
understand. Let me finish.
Okay.
I understand that you are looking at what's practical to do. That's fine, and that's good, but there needs to be, when describing the project as you envision it, and it includes the drawings, and it includes is why we're concentrating on these pieces and not the other pieces of this plan, right? The Burgess study was put together to be a conceptual idea to refurbish the streetscape of the lower part of Tuxedo. It includes a number of concepts, right? The crosswalk, the signage. You have taken from that overall plan and put forth a project. That's fine. It just explanation of why this is the project is important to understanding the project. So that we're going to do this, here's why, and not in total broad generalities like public safety, but the reason we're doing this sidewalk and not the sidewalk on the other side of the block kind of stuff. And then the rest of the stuff we asked for. And then we have a concept for an entire project that we can review and decide if it's something we want to move forward with or not. And then once we do that, we have the opportunity to talk about where we're going to get the money. Once we're confident that the amount of money we're talking about is reasonably close to what it's finally going to cost.
And where it would come from.
And then we can talk about where it's going to come from. And whether that's fund balance or bonds or LDC grants or the grant that we haven't looked for yet or whatever. But that's the whole process. And what I've been feeling is that this is being driven by a timeline that seems very accelerated. And not sure entirely why we're on that accelerated timeline, but that's okay.
May I?
Sure, of course.
I think you were expecting a little bit of feedback tonight. I hope this is coming across as respectfully. We've done this for about an hour. You've given us some new information that all board members need to review and give you further feedback. Because now we have at least a week, 2 weeks to mull this over. And I'm sure there'll be dialogue in between, constructive dialogue that doesn't violate open meetings law. And you will provide us with further information about when you talk about key stakeholders that gave you that
I know,
information,
yes.
who and what general notes of what the feedback
Yeah.
is. And the next time we do a presentation about this, it has to be publicized ahead of time so that we make sure anybody who wanted to hear this had a chance to do that.
Well, that's why I wanted it on the agenda, so
Yeah, I
people
know,
would
but
know.
it can't be the Friday before the meeting. That's not a way to diligently reach out to everybody. I'm talking about making sure Mary Gretzer has it on TP, FYI, that Marissa puts that out there, that the homeowners who would be most impacted by this would have absolutely know that we're doing a presentation. So you just, and that everybody can give you the kind of feedback that you're hoping for. That's all. And I think the timeline has just been, look, you got to set a timeline to make something happen. But, you know, the information has to be disseminated, at least with enough reasonable time for people to digest it, and that's all. So you asked me to try to, what are we gonna do next? So all we have right now is the information from Sean's memo, which is basically, I think you've refined what was in.
It's the backup to that. I
Okay.
mean, obviously, that was a summary, and this is the
If you
detail.
wanna, if there's anything you wanna revise, can we get it sometime later this week? And then we'll all promise to have a discussion on the 10th as to what was presented. And keep it to that this is what you want to get feedback on, right? Does that work?
That works. I'm getting a little confused about now wanting the full plan.
Well,
I
I
mean,
think,
we are working on the full plan.
Michelle, I think the thing that you want to do, because it's interesting, I was just writing you an email about this. I think everybody will benefit from having a better idea of what the full scope of the plan could be
Could be,
and
okay.
how this portion that you're focusing on fits into that.
Okay,
Exactly.
okay, that's helpful. I mean,
You're
without,
presenting a project, not the
in
whole.
concept, though, I mean, you
Yeah,
know, not.
yes, right.
Yeah.
But I think people, at least what I'm hearing, is the board wants to know, okay, this is not a standalone, but it's a part of a larger project, and this is how it fits into that larger project. I think that'll help focus.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think that when I started talking, I was saying how it's just one prong of a multi-pronged approach to this. We've got the
You have
Greenway
that
Community
because you've
Grant.
been in the weeds with it. But
I'm
I don't
sorry?
think the rest of the board has that depth of understanding. So I think what I hear them asking for is more of the background that you already have developed, just to bring them along so that they can be at the same point you are with seeing how this is an important component of the overall project.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I will certainly do that again. It's part of the slideshow presentation, starting out the slideshow. It says all the different things that we're working on. The
Yes.
Greenway Grant, the road diet, the DOT, the school.
The Greenway Grant is
zone.
for another,
But it's all part, right? Isn't the Greenway Grant part of it? I mean, that's more for
Yeah,
economic
that's so
development.
big.
but-
that's so big, but
That won't go.
Well, I'm
Just
just
the-
saying, we're working on the very large picture.
yes, that's
And
good.
this is a piece of
This
it.
is a piece of it, and this is a piece of it.
Right.
So we
Because
need,
I'm trying to make it realistically possible.
yes, I understand that. That's not a bad thing. But the question of why you chose these pieces. The Burgess Plan is a part of the overall plan that includes the Greenway Grant and all the rest of that stuff.
Oh, no. Burgess is not part of Greenway.
It's part of an overall plan that includes
Oh, yeah, the overall.
right, okay? This latest Burgess study, this project is been selected out of a number of the concepts that study contains. Right? We already talked about why not the sidewalks on 17. Okay, but still, as we're now going through this and it's on paper, so we're all looking at the same thing every time, an explanation of why this piece, why that piece, how this connectivity works, what the concept of this particular piece project, small p project.
Well, what I want
Yes.
to leave you with, I wrote right here, stages of priority.
Also true.
Not limiting not including Route 17 to me is, that would be the feedback you'll hear from me, that Route 17 has to be included. You know, I consider myself a stakeholder, and this stakeholder would definitely be saying, you know, that has to be included. And so that, I would just, I'm not gonna surprise you.
And while we're talking about time frame, one of the reasons you gave for not doing these sidewalks is because we're gonna try to do the road diet, and we don't want to repair stuff that we don't want to repair something and then tear it out. The road diet is gonna be years. Years.
There's
So-
definitely elements that I've seen here. I was just looking at some of the curb cuts on Route 17 where cars have to cross the sidewalk. I think there's some of these visual things that the Burgess, this plan shows that could help make it clear that this is a sidewalk when you're crossing it. You know, you got to respect the pedestrians there. I would certainly want a plan that heavily focuses on that crosswalk at Hospital Road, because you'll never get all of that stuff lined up simultaneously. You gotta kind of say, what are the stages of priority? And I think, so anyway,
Okay.
that's the kind of feedback that I hope will be useful. And hopefully through consensus, we can identify, okay, what stages are fundable now, using some fund balance and possibly LDC money, and then.
Possibly long-term financing.
Yeah, and then how do you move out from there? Because anything of this magnitude is gonna require multiple strategies. But if you try to grab it all at one time, nothing ends up happening. It sounds like Tuxedo Farms to me, or the Tuxedo Reserve. When something gets so big, it goes on for 30 years.
Well, that's why we're trying to get, yeah, that's why
Okay,
20 years have passed and let's get something done.
all right, something, okay.
That's beneficial to the town.
Yeah, by consensus, that's right, absolutely. All right, so my pledge is I will read this documentation. I will share some feedback with you before the 10th. And so the 10th, hopefully, will be people responding to this information.
Would
And
you
not another big presentation, but responding to what
Okay.
was, anybody could watch this that cares, that wasn't here this evening. And that should be their assignment as well.
Okay.
To look at the hour plus that we put into this and
Okay.
show that you
sounds good.
care by doing that, reading this, and posing some questions to your board members before April 10th. And then I would imagine maybe we could spend a half an hour on that at the 10th, but it shouldn't be it should be responding to this. Is that
Works for me,
agreeable?
absolutely.
Is
Yeah.
that agreeable to you?
That's totally agreeable, and I'll just make the point somewhere, when we put the presentation, or the slideshow that I had, the first slide was all the approaches we're pursuing at the same time.
Okay,
So, you know, that's as far as we went, was identifying what we're pursuing without going into detail about all of them.
Right, let's,
and again, if we could find some consensus on priority, then maybe we don't need to price out everything. Say, okay, we've agreed that this is a good starting point. There's no need doing engineering studies for everything unless, first of all, we all agreed it was worth pursuing. And secondly, it seemed reasonable that we might be able to find the money to do that in 2023. Otherwise,
That's
it's
why.
other people probably talking
Yeah.
about this.
Exactly.
Okay, good. All
Another
right, I
reason
need
for
to
the
end this
timeline.
conversation so we can move forward. All right. I hope everybody feels respected, because that's what we're trying to do here. All righty.
updates.
Department updates. I'm going to skip my supervisor's update because it's 5 after 9. I'm going to turn to the Dole Bomb team, and you guys
Marissa said she'd break my legs if she don't go first.
Okay, well, I kind of want to see that, so no,
We
only
did
kidding.
rock, paper, scissors, and
battle.
I lost, so I'm up first. Good evening, everyone. I wanted to announce some Earth Day events. On Saturday, April 22nd, which is actually Earth Day, at 9 a.m., the Tuxedo Union Free School District organized a townwide cleanup. The meeting spot is the high school upper parking lot, and I hope a lot of people can join, because the more people we have, the more ground we can cover, and it would be a nice thing to do. On Sunday, April 23rd, there is a fun run and 5K at Quarry Field on Warwick Brook Road that the town is hosting. The fun run starts at 8:30 a.m., and that's one lap around the paved area around Quarry Fields. And then the 5K begins at 9 a.m., and that's kind of halfway-ish up Warwick Brook Road. The first part of the race, 5K,
5K
yes.
to the end of that.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay, so to the end and the
They've been
back.
lying to you all this time.
From what I've heard, I haven't done it, obviously. From what I've heard, it's uphill on the way back, but on the way going down is downhill, so that's a good thing. So please come out and join us. And a reminder for town residents who will start to do their spring cleaning. Interstate Waste Services picks up bulk items every Thursday by appointment only. So bulk items is anything that doesn't fit in the garbage toter. That can be a bag, that can be a bed, dresser, et cetera. The only thing they don't take is construction debris, which is sheetrock and flooring and that type of thing. But like I said, it's appointment only, so it's not, if you just leave it out, they'll eventually come get it. What's happening is neighbors will call IWS for residents that they see the items have been left out, and those residents don't learn that actual process. So if you do see that and you know it's been out for more than a week, please call town hall. They can either call my office or building department, but ultimately we send Dave, building inspector, out.
Who do
And
they
he'll,
call to make the appointment?
866 dial IWS, and that number is printed on the garbage toter as well. But they can always call town hall and I can assist them with that process. And that's all I have for this evening.
Robert,
I'll run down mine real quick, but there's some thought into this one. Okay, tree cutting ends on Friday. Bucket truck goes back Saturday.
Rob, use a microphone.
Sorry
Please.
about that, Mary. Tree cutting ends on Friday. Okay, the truck goes back Saturday or Monday. Well, the dog warden's vehicle. Do we
Dog warden.
still have a dog warden? Do we let the vehicle sit and rot away? Do we surplus it? How do we handle the dog? It needs some work at this point in time. That's up to the board. What do you want us to do with it?
I'll get back to you on that.
Okay. I want to replace a 2004 Toro lawnmower with a new lawnmower. Cost is about 13 grand. I have it in my budget, so I'm just gonna replace the mower with a new mower. So sewer, we talked about the sewer letters you're discussing and going out and mailing is nice. But in the past, we have, when I've had problem things, I've had men put notices on every person's door. So that might be another option of getting the word out there that we're having I&I and,
Yeah, I think you and I should make up some signs and have them posted around the affected areas.
right.
Make sure that people understand what we're doing. Yep. Okay.
Patching begins on Monday next week. That's potholes, that's berms, that's all asphalt, whatever's damaged, whatever we have to replace, winter damage from plows, taking out berms. And potholes are a minimum this year, so maybe because we didn't have the deep frost like we normally have, so we're in pretty good shape with that. But and then season's coming, so the mulch is going to be down at the bins. Mulch, compost will be there for all the gardeners to get out. And that's it, uncle, ready to go.
Thank you, sir. All right. Town board members, you have any updates?
I just have two very short. First, Maria couldn't be here, but I want to, talking more about sewers. At the beginning of the month, Howard found an item from Congressman Ryan looking for requests for funding. And oh, by the way, get your requests in 2 weeks. So in the 2 weeks leading up to the 17th, Maria led the effort to put together essentially an initial grant proposal to help fund repairs to the sewer system that we've been discussing. She had help from Sean. She had a very little help from me. She had some help from Michelle, but she got that in a day early with all of the required letters and everything. My understanding is that the congressman had to have all of that compiled and into whatever his submission was due Friday last, 24th. And we've been told that sometime in the next couple of weeks, we will hear whether or not we're actually in the running for this money, which would go to, it's better than $1 million. So it's real money. That seems magically fast for a federal government grant program, but if he says it, I believe him. So more news, but Maria is too modest to toot her own horn about stuff like that, so I just wanted to give that shout out. And the other thing, the season's changing. Let me put my Boy Scout hat on. And that means the bears are going to be coming out soon, and they're going to be hungry. Okay, they're out. The bears are out. Go to, if you've never dealt with bears before or you don't remember, go to the town website, read the thing about avoiding interactions with bears. They're looking for food. So keep your garbage contained. Time to start taking down bird feeders. If you feed your dogs outside, maybe rethink that program because dogs are bear food too. So that's all.
Great, thank you. Michelle, do you have anything you want to add?
Just two things. Tomorrow, Kathleen Metcalf, our recreation coordinator, and I are going up to, so I could show her the Weewa Beach Club, where the summer camp will be spending a good portion of their time. And then I've set up a meeting with members of the Weewa committee to discuss how much they're, what the arrangements are going to be for the summer camp to use the Weewa Beach. And then we also had a meeting with Frank Peverly, the Climate Smart Community, to understand the capacity of our electric grid in our area. And right now, it's closed off, except there is capacity by the highway department, we found out. So we talked to him about being able to connect to the grid there. And it's just good to understand that the rest of Tuxedo in the north is just shut off. There's no capacity to connect.
This is capacity to
To
put in
generate,
like
like a
new
solar,
solar
yeah.
or hydro or something like that.
Yeah. I'll show you the slide that we were looking at. I'll send it to you.
Excellent.
That's it for me.
All right, the minutes. I'd like to make a motion and ask for a second to accept the minutes of the regular bi-monthly town board meeting held on March 13th, 2023. Do I have a second?
Second?
Seconded by Michelle. Any comments, additions, edits?
My only comment is that I wasn't there, so I'm going to be abstaining from this vote.
No, right. We have to have a, yeah, how do we work when we don't?
Howard?
What,
Maybe we just.
If I abstain and there are only two other people here, can they vote to accept the minutes?
yeah, you wait till next meeting.
Okay, there you go. Vouchers. We have a list of vouchers over $5,000. They're typical expected expenses. medical benefits for retirees, $5,354. Maintenance of the live scan software for police fingerprinting. The typical IWS February garbage, $31,000. Attorney's fees, sewer plant, maintenance that's billed to the Hamlet Sewer District, and other union health benefits. So I'm going to make a motion, ask for a second, to approve the vouchers having been ordered by the town board, approve them for payment, claims number 2012921 321 through 201-292-1367. Do I have a second on that?
Second?
Seconded by Michelle. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Other business, we've dealt with the Hamlet grant application. Any public comments from the virtual world? Hank, we have one guest live in our audience here with the best seat in the house.
I'm getting nervous. Anybody heard from Jerry this week?
Okay.
He's
I
not there?
had some comments and some questions, Ken, but you and Jay pretty much took care of it for me, so thank you.
Oh, thank you, Mary. All right, so we're ready for the adjournment. I'll make them.
I have an announcement.
Please make an announcement.
I'm very sorry, I forgot. In my update, tomorrow night, Jeff Demansky from Jewel Assets Community Power and I are giving another presentation on community choice aggregation at the Woodlands Homeowners Association. So I think it will also be by Zoom. I'm not sure.
Is that open to other people?
I think probably not, but maybe by Zoom. I'm not sure how
Okay.
that works. But just if there's anybody in the Woodlands listening in, please join us.
Okay, I don't see any Woodlands
7
people up
o'clock.
there, but,
7 o'clock.
okay. I'm gonna ask for that second for the adjournment.
Oh, pick me.
Okay, motion to adjourn at, what time is it?
9:15.
9:15 works. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all right, thank you for lively discussion.